It is a pleasure to introduce our speaker today that is going to kick off the Wingman Day portion. Master Sergeant retired Andy Ramotnik enlisted into the Army Air Corps in 1941. After attending boot camp and radio operators course at Scott Army Air Force Base, he became assigned as a B-25 Mitchell aircrew member in 1943. During his 43rd bombing mission, his aircraft was shot down and Master Sergeant Ramotnik was captured and taken to Germany for interrogation. During his 19 months as a prisoner of war, he was able to escape twice, once for 30 days, but was eventually recaptured by German soldiers. He went on to serve 21 years in the United States Air Force and is always proud to share his story of heroism and survival. Help me welcome Master Sergeant Ramotnik.
Thank you. I am very pleased to be here. I love that military uniform and you very special people wearing it. And thank you for the invitation. The Colonel already said most of my story. I don't know what else I can add. But I do love telling my story. The exciting part of it is, to me, it happened when I was 20 years of age. So let me begin. World War II began 1941. 2 weeks later, I enlisted in the Army Air Corps.
Yes, sir.
From there I went to basic training, learning how to march and drill. And after that I went to radio operator school. A year later, I found myself assigned to a B-25 squadron in North Africa in the Sahara Desert. We lived in tents, ate out of mess kits. Laundry facilities were not available. I was a crew member in a B-25. 5 members are assigned to the crew. B-25, as you see here, top speed was 275 miles an hour, maximum bomb load 3,000 pounds. We normally bombed from about 10,000 feet. Now, when I arrived in North Africa, the Nazis had almost conquered the complete North African coast, from Tunis to Egypt, Cairo. When I arrived there, and we began operating from near Cairo, Egypt. Finally, the Nazis were defeated. We used to bomb airfields, harbors, troop and tank concentrations, fuel depots, and many other types of targets. After the defeat of the Nazis from North Africa, we then were moved to Sicily. So now I'm 20 years of age on my 43rd bombing mission. I felt like an old timer with the 43 missions at the age of 20. As we took off in a formation at 12 B-25 from Sicily to a target in Italy early in the morning, when we hit the coast of Italy, we encountered heavy anti-aircraft fire. Our formation of 12 aircraft, we were the unlucky ones. Our right engine was hit, we began losing airspeed and altitude. The formation left us, obviously. We couldn't keep up with it. Now, what happened was, again, I repeat, we're losing altitude and airspeed. Pilot says over the intercom, prepare to bail out at the mountain ahead of us. Now, in the back end of this B-25, that's where the top turret gunner and I are located. There is only one way into that back end for the gunner and I, and one way out. It's the escape hatch. Finally, the alarm bell is ringing. Loud. I mean, it's really loud. The gunner gets down from his upper turret, puts his parachute on, went over to the emergency handle, pulled it, came over and told me, Andy, the hatch won't open. Well, what do you do? What did I do? Without my parachute, only the parachute harness on, threw my headsets down, rushed over and quickly and pulled that bright red handle. Nothing happened. I finally kicked the hatch. Still nothing happened. Now, we're still losing altitude and airspeed. I'd like to ask you all a question. Who's a volunteer? What would you do next if survive or perish? Anybody care to answer, provide an answer? Suggestion? What? Did I hear pray? I love that comment because I had an 8-year-old boy say the same thing. When I told his mother, I said, I don't know if that'll help or not, but I appreciate your question, sir. Well, I think you all know I'm here to tell you what I did. I must have done something right. I jumped on the hatch. Oh, no. Look, see, guess what happened? The hatch flew open. What happened to me? I'm here to tell you what happened. I followed the hatch. Except I reached in and got a hold of the metal ribs, struggled and pulled myself back in. Then I put my parachute on. After we both got out, I could see 5 parachutes descending to the earth, which meant we all got out. The moment I hit the ground, I heard hands up in English. Since normally we bomb front lines, I thought it was either American, English, or Australians. To my surprise, that they were not. They were enemy soldiers, one with a rifle, one with a pistol pointed at me. We could not communicate, of course. I didn't speak German, they didn't speak English. So I was captured, sent by train, aircraft, and truck to the interrogation center in Frankfurt, Germany, where all Americans were interrogated. After a few weeks of solitary confinement, we all then were transported by train to our new home. The home was called Stalag 17B, POW camp for American Army Air Corps prisoners. There were about 4,000 of us there in this POW camp. All enlisted men, mostly E5s. So I spent 19 months there. April 1945, war still going on. The camp is being evacuated. About 4,000 American Army Air Corps enlisted men. After marching from morning till night in groups from each barracks. Our barracks consisted of about 100 men. We lived together all that time, 19 months. While we were on this forced march, we did not know where we were going. We were like a bunch of cattle, not knowing where. And also, it was like being a zombie, because you don't know what lies ahead. After marching, forced march, in a group of 100, that evening we were going to bed down in an open farm field. We were not given any food or water. It so happened during the march, I stayed in the back end. I had only one thing on my mind: escape. I figured I couldn't take it. Also in the back end was another guy. His name was John, from Oregon. He was shot down over Norway or in that area. He flew in a B-17, Flying Fortress heavy bomber. They had a crew of about 11 or 12 men. He was in the back end alongside of me during this whole march. We never communicated for 19 months in that barracks. Yet here we are together, going to bed down in an open farm field. While there, late in the evening, we were allowed to go get water at this water fountain in a small town named Lobensdorf. It must have had a population of about 100. I went to get water. I looked around this village. I noticed guards at 3 of the alleys, none at the 4th. What would you do? Well, I'll tell you what I did. I didn't get water. I rushed back, asked my partner, John, "Hey, John, you want to make a break for it?" We never talked about it. He says, "Yeah, let's go." Now we go back to where the water fountain is, after picking up our 2 blankets apiece. I look around, I see the guards at the same places. But I look at that other alley, still nobody there. Then we started walking slowly to that alley, and ahead we could see an open field, farm. Then we started running. Now it's just a little bit dark now, and we ran and ran until we came to a barbed wire the farmers used to keep their cattle in. I ducked under the barbed wire. When I got on the other side, I heard rifle fire. I turned around, looked back. John is on his hands and knees. You'd be surprised what I was thinking of. I says, "Hey, John, what happened?" He says, "Andy, I lost my cat in the barbed wire. I didn't duck low enough." I says, and you don't want to hear what I said, "Let's keep running." We ran until we came to a river. Now, I had a little experience in my hometown walking at night in the dark. You don't know which way you're going in the dark. You have to have a bearing, a target, or something. So I didn't know what to do. John's following me. I says to John, "Well, I want to go straight. What do we do?" He says, "Follow the North Star." I says, "I never was a Boy Scout. I don't know where it is." He says, "Well, it's straight ahead. Look up in the sky." He pointed it out to me. That told me we had to cross the river. The moment we crossed it, we got on the other side, And the moment we hit the bank, we felt exhausted and fell asleep. Early next morning, John awakens me and says, "Andy, look, there go our buddies in the group." We could recognize them. We were not far away from them on the other side of that river. So we then quickly got up, started walking into the woods. We came to a cave, found a hatchet nearby, and that was our new home. We stayed there for a while. Early one morning, it's dark outside, John awakens me while in the cave. He says, "Andy, someone's trying to come in." Well, now, what's going on? We get up on our hands and knees. We can see a big, tall man. That's all we can tell. Coming into the cave. He doesn't evidently know we're in there either. As he gets about 2 feet away from us, he strikes a match or a lighter. We are about 2 feet apart from each other. John, with the hatchet in his hand, asked me, this is what he said, "Andy, you want me to get him?" I'd like to ask you the question. How should I respond? I did respond. I said no, reached into my pocket, pulled out a pack of cigarettes, offered this gentleman a cigarette. He looked frightened, he turned white, and he took off, ran out the other exit in the cave. When daybreak came up, sun is out, John and I took off to find another home. We did. We slept elsewhere underneath trees, tried to dig another hole in the ground for shelter. Soil was all rock, we couldn't do that. So we slept under the trees while we observed the area. Since there was no activity in the cave, well, we figured that's better than sleeping underneath the trees. We came back to the cave and stayed there. Early one morning, about 8 o'clock, we hear noises all around the cave. Sounded like metal against rock. We're inside. We can't see anything looking out the cave. After about 4 hours, around noontime, the noises ceased. We decided to go take a look. As we walked around, we saw slit trenches dug all around this area. We walked up to the top of this hill. At the very top, here come the German soldiers returning. Well, we were captured again. After being transported to another place, another area, we were on another forced march with about 20 Frenchmen. When we began to march early in the morning with German guards, John and I moved out to the front of this group. When we got far ahead, we could not see the guards, and we came around a bend. John and I took off running into the woods. We got away. Now, after marching through the woods again on dirt trails, wagon roads, ahead of us around a bend, we look ahead and we see about 20 German soldiers with their weapons alongside of them, eating their evening meal. Now, I don't know if they saw us or not, but we sure saw them. I'd like to ask you the question again. What would you do? You have a few choices. Well, I have to tell you what we did. We kept on marching right through where the German soldiers were eating their evening meal, and we made it. The moment we didn't see them anymore in the back, again we took off running into the woods. Shortly after, we ran into a Polish teenager. They call them DPs, displaced persons. They were the young teenagers brought into Germany from other countries to supply the German war effort. Luckily, he and I could speak a similar language. He was Polish, I was Slovak. We were able to communicate. When he saw us, he knew we were pretty well exhausted. He worked on this farm for this lady whose husband was in a German army on the Russian front. He asked the lady if we could work for her and we could sleep in the barn, to which thankfully she agreed. We finally got some food. We had a good place to sleep on the hay. And there's where we stayed for many days. Late one evening, it was late, we hear noises off in the distance. And out front of this farmhouse is a dirt wagon road. This is out in the country. The noises, lots of noises, sounded like marching. Got closer and closer to this house. In the house is this owner, the lady, her grandmother, another teenager, a Croatian girl, and the Polish DP. And John and I. I'm sitting right next to the entrance door. John is sitting across from me. As we hear the noises, there is silence inside this house. The noises get louder and louder. Now, they stop at the front of this house. You could hear a pin drop inside the house. Now there's a knock at the door. Someone inside spoke. The gentleman outside came in. He walks right in front of me, asked me in German, which I understood, how far is it to the next village? I'd like to ask you the question again. How would you respond? I like that. I had many different kinds of answers, but I'll tell you what I did. Very close to you, sir. I pointed my finger to where the other people were sitting at the dining room table. He made a left face, marched over to them, asked them the same question. Satisfied with his answer, turned around again, came right back, past me. And by the way, he was holding, when he entered, a shiny pistol at his side in a black uniform. As he came past me, he said, "Good night, good Nacht" in German, walked out. There is silence in that room. The question being, did he recognize two of his enemy prisoners were there? did the lady know she was harboring the enemy. Normally the penalty is death. Finally he walks out the door, goes out, still there's no sound inside our house. You could hear deep breathing. He goes outside, you could hear him give a command to about 20 other soldiers. The sound now starts from being loud to decreasing in sound, which meant they were departing. There still was nobody speaking in that house. Finally, the sound disappeared. Now the lady at this house told this Polish VP something in German. She said, and this is what he told us. He says, the lady said, we have to leave immediately. Well, we had nothing. We didn't even have our blankets. They were left way behind. So we walked out in the dark, out that door, from where that soldier came in or wherever he was. We could either go left or right. All of a sudden, within seconds almost, or a minute, the Polish boy comes running out. He says, Andy, they just heard on the radio, the war is over. Now that is the way anyone would wish for everything. And we stayed for a few more days. We were not liberated nor survived, not liberated nor rescued, because we were deep in enemy territory. So I tell you now, that's the end of my short story, hopefully short. I have nothing else to say other than anyone cares to ask me any questions, I will be glad to try to answer them. Thank you.
Sir, what happened with the other crewmen?
Oh, very good question. Everybody got out. The gunner, by the way, well, we argued about who was going to go out first, but he went out first because I was the old timer. So he listened to me. He made it. He got rescued when he hit the ground in Italy by the French underground. They got him back to the base in Sicily. The other crew members, the officers, 3 of them, were in POW camps. I met my pilot after the war in Florida, after the war, and we had visited each other a couple of times. He was injured when he bailed out, hurt his back. But again, they were POWs as well. I hope that answers your question.
How'd you finally get out? How'd you finally get out of the territory?
How did I get out of where?
You said you weren't rescued. They didn't come get you. How'd you get out?
How did we get out of enemy territory after the war was over? Very good question. I don't know what you would do, but I'll tell you what we did. We stayed in a barn, still hiding out, because, and even in this little village, we saw enemy soldiers returning. Some had weapons, some did not. We had nothing. So we're hiding out all day and night in the barn. After a couple of days, we then decided, well, now we got to do something. So we decided to march westward without a compass, so we used the sun as our compass. A couple of days, when we came upon an Army Jeep, American Army Jeep. This Jeep was from General Patton's Third Army. As the Jeep got close to us, we stood and, attention, saluted the officer who was up front in a Jeep, a major from General Patton's Third Army. We saluted him and said, "Sir, we are American prisoners of war." What did the major say? "How the heck do I know who you are?" But this was the lucky break. He asked a question, "Any of you speak Russian?" Obviously, they're on their way to meet some Russian officers at a prearranged meeting. I spoke up, said, "Sir, I speak Slovak. It's part Russian." I waited for his response. He hesitated, seemed like a long time. Then he said, "Come on, jump in." We got in with him. They took care of us, made arrangements to Le Havre in France, where we met all of our other POW buddies. And from there, arrangements were made to return home. And that was the end of it. Hope that answers your question. I will make this comment. I hope you... The reason I like to tell the story is because I didn't know anything when I joined at 18. And at 20, I made these decisions with my partner. And I hope if you ever encounter dangerous situations, you use that sharp head, because you people are very sharp, special people. Thanks again.